Welcome back, you guys, to another episode of Chats with Cath with me, Cath. This week, we are going to be discussing a very tricky subject, which is perfectionism, but each to their own. Everybody's different, but I want to discuss it specifically because it's something that I have struggled with. So, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you want to discuss it further or if you want a part two, because I do think it's a loaded subject a bit and something that can continue. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Perfectionism as a whole is something I wholly dislike, and it's ironic considering I'm a natural perfectionist. I'm a natural perfectionist, but I do definitely want to talk about this, and please engage with me in the comment section on YouTube. You can reach out to me on my DMs on Instagram, and you can also reach out to me and send me a one-liner or an essay if you like on email on chatswithcath@gmail.com. Okay, so as I was busy starting off this whole conversation, I did highlight that perfectionism is a word that I do not like. And the reason being is because I have some attachment to it and it's not necessarily healthy. So I have not ever been diagnosed with OCD, but with the checkups that I've been doing with my therapist and my life coach and everything, they have hinted and highlighted the fact that I am more adverse to making sure things are done in a specific way and things are done in a way to which I think is like done well. And I guess in a sense that kind of highlights a bit of perfectionism. And with that being said, the reason why I don't like this word is because I have been riddled with I've been defined by this word, if that makes any sense. And for a long period of my time, close to a decade actually, I let it define me as thus, because I wanted people to feel or think that when they interacted with me or were in any way associated with me, they were getting either the perfect friend, the perfect work colleague, the perfect daughter, the perfect niece, the perfect girlfriend, the perfect whatever. And as I said before, this is not healthy behavior. And in a way, I had to find better ways to structure my time in order for me to be a bit of more of a productive human of society. And why I struggle with discussing this specific topic per se is because I am still struggling with the pursuit of perfection to this day. And I know it sounds wild. It's like, why are you still trying to achieve perfectionism, and why are you still like on that route and on that road? The reason being, to be fair, is because in many aspects, when I approach or do something, or if I'm doing something for someone, I tend to make sure that I try to do it extremely well. And I tend to try and make sure that I do it in a way that's not offensive, which is going into why I think the pursuit of perfectionism can get problematic. I mean, there are healthy ways to achieve this, because then obviously it leads to other good things happening. Like people notice that, oh, you're actually very good at specific things, and you are very good at interacting with people in a specific way. And in a sense, in their minds, inadvertently, it makes them able and capable to rely on you and trust you with doing specific things. And with perfectionism, this type of behavior in my own personal experience, I've had to make sure that I can make it a healthy balance. I'm not saying that it happens all the time, but I've always had to make sure it's a healthy balance. And in terms of what perfectionism means to me, I think I kind of covered that, where I was busy going into how, in my mind, I'm thinking that if I'm going to do something or try to achieve something, I'm going to put my very best into what I do and try and ensure that I achieve it to the best level of my ability. I'm not saying that everybody is the same, never that. There was a time in my life where I would think that, okay, if I'm putting all of my blood, sweat, and tears into something, everybody else is probably doing the same thing, which is not accurate at all. People have their own thoughts and feelings, and in terms of how they approach, how they do things, they do it in their own way, and everybody is different. And in this pursuit of perfection, I've had to learn very hard lessons in terms of intuition, empathy, and also patience and understanding. And I think those are very important human skills, because all those things make it easier for people to tolerate you and make it easier for people to interact with you or to work with you or just to be around you. Because from what I've noticed in my own experience, there were times where I would be trying to reach a level of perfection or things like that, and it turned into a nightmarish experience, because people felt that like I was very aggressive, and they felt that like I was extremely out there, like really in your face and micromanagey, and that is not the type of message I was trying to portray or to put out there. And it made people dislike me a lot, or make people dislike that specific element about me. And I'm a person who does take feedback, and if there is a problem, or if you have a problem with me, I do appreciate if you come and talk to me and tell me like, listen, I actually didn't appreciate the way you spoke to me or how you treated me, XYZ, XYZ. And in my head, I can register that and then take into account that I need to be more cognizant of how I approach things or treat people. And hopefully you in turn are not just doing that to be mean and to be rude, because there are some people who think that like my approach of like trying to do things very well, even though it is aggressive and everything like that, I do know I have improved. There's some people who just do it just to be spiteful, and I've had instances of that, and it wasn't very nice, because in that setting, I would also say, oh, okay, well, I just feel like you're not doing XYZ, XYZ. Like, I feel like I'm doing everything and you're not doing anything at all. And I have no problem in delegating and getting people to do other things. But I do want to meet people halfway, where I can approach you with a level of respect and treat you with respect. And hopefully, in turn, you also approach me and treat me with respect, with a level of respect. And that's how I operate. Where did this strength stem from? Ooh, Jehovah. Sorry, I didn't mean to say the Lord's name in vain for any of the Christian viewers. But where did this stem from? I think this stemmed from a very, very, very young age, in my formidable years, or impressionable years, I would say. And I think it started when I was sent to boarding school, because I went to boarding school at a very young age. I think I was like 5, going on 6, but I was 5. Hey man, Africa was a mess, and my parents had to do what they had to do to ensure that I had a good education and also was well looked after. I was never necessarily alone because I was spending a whole week with my friends and teachers, and then on weekends, I would either go to my grandmother's house from my father's side, or I would go to my uncle's house or my aunt's house. It just depended on like how it would inevitably work out. But because of that, I had to learn very quickly how to have autonomy over myself and to be self-reliant on myself. And with that being said, there were a lot of things that I was being taught, but I was being taught more in an educational setting, and taught in a way that like it was more student to teacher. It wasn't like parents, guardians, and people who would mostly spend more time with you and approach like, being a good human, being a productive member of society in a healthy, hectic. Everybody's family is different, but I mean, approach things in a way that it's easily digestible for a child, if that makes sense. And in my case, I spent a big chunk of my time being around other students and teachers and having to learn to fend for myself in that sense. And because of that, and because I was in an environment of other children who were competing to do well, I would say that it stemmed from that. And then also, it also stemmed from my parents and also other family members who would look after me, like my aunts and uncles who would look after me, and all these things, and other guardians that were involved in my upbringing. And I say this not to offend anybody, but I do say this that I was put in a position where I always had to ensure that whenever I did anything or whenever I was spoken of, it was always a good thing. And an example of this would be, oh, Catherine is very good at sports, because I did a lot of cross country back in the day. I know it sounds wild, but I did a lot of cross country back in the day, and I was relatively good at it. Also did ballet, and I was also quite good at it. And and from there, I thought, oh, okay, I get affirmations or uplifted or validated. That's the word. I was 5, remember, and still growing. When I do very well in these particular things. And I was also I was also very good at things like history and English. And because I was really a fan of like knowing like current affairs, history, and all these things that happened way back when, particularly African history, Western history, whatever history it was, whatever fascinated me at that point in time, I literally did everything I could to find out as much information as possible of that one thing. And with that approach stemmed my perfectionism, which was not necessarily the healthiest thing, but it did happen. So yeah, that's where I think it stemmed from, my formidable years. And then it just kind of continued with me all the way to high school, to university, and in my adult life. And I did touch on like how it can be unhealthy and the instances where it was affecting my relationships with people, with friends in particular, because they would be thinking like, why on earth are you this intolerable person who's always just like so difficult and stubborn, always wanting to do things a specific way because you think that's the right way because it's worked before. And it's not nice. And I appreciate that I do have friends who are very forthcoming with me and to tell me, like, listen, we love you, but you need to calm down. We love you, but you need to calm down. So I think I mentioned that I did tend to become a bit stubborn. I don't know if it's a zodiac astrology correlation, because not many people might believe in astrology like that. Because if you were to put me in the spectrum there, I would classify as a Capricorn. And Capricorns are considered extremely hardworking people and naturally adverse to trying to do things in a specific way that borders on perfectionism. And it is hard for me to be reasonable when I am trying to do a specific task in a specific way, in my way. And I have clashed with a lot of people because of it. Family members too, friends, work colleagues, and everything. But because life is all about growth and lessons, there's always a lesson to be learned where I was always trying my best to make sure that I would rise above that and go the extra mile to ensure that I learned from how my behavior was affecting others. And then from there, take that and find more amiable ways to approach tasks, subjects, etc., so that I I could achieve my goals, but then also to work with other people. And I will not lie to you, it was extremely hard for me to work in teams, because usually as a perfectionist, when I do things alone, everything happens as quickly and to the level of satisfactoriness in my head. And I think also with that mentality, it made it very hard for me to make friends, because it's hard to come across people who might understand the type of person you are when you are this way. But then also in the same breath, it's hard for people to interact with me. And I kind of create an atmosphere where I come off as standoffish, cold, unapproachable, a bitch. That is a common word that was used from my youth, even up until now, in terms of like how people perceived me because of how I behaved, and how whenever I was trying to do something, they didn't necessarily understand where this was coming from. So it is very hard for a perfectionist to be flexible yet understanding. And it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process. I'm not gonna lie, I do work on myself consistently to make sure that I'm able to work well in teams, interact with others as efficiently and capably as I can, and yeah, just to be a good, tolerable human being in general. I mean, I don't want to be that girl with no friends, because that would suck. So those are just like some of the things that might make it difficult for a perfectionist to find reason. Then some lessons I've learned on my journey. It's hard for perfectionism or perfectionists to make friends. That was the hardest one. I do like spending time alone. I really enjoy spending time alone, but I know that for health reasons and for mental health reasons, I should not isolate myself on a consistent basis because then I will drive myself insane with my own thoughts and feelings and put myself into a depression. So I do try my best to interact with other humans. Hi human, you want a human with me? Kind of thing. Um, yeah, like it is so important for me to make friends and meet new people. And I'm not saying that, oh my God, it's like the best thing and the only thing you can do as a perfectionist, make friends and then your life is solved. No, I'm just saying that it puts into perspective other people from different backgrounds and different walks of life and puts into perspective just how different everyone is and makes you appreciate like the differences everybody has because there's no one way to do one thing. And that is the second lesson I've learned. There's no one way to do just one thing. There's always multiple ways to come to a resolve or a solution. And it is so important that you know that because, like, as a stubborn person, you come across the people who are like, it's my way or the highway. Like, I know it sounds very abrasive and very final, and then people cut people off quickly like that. And you don't want your address book to be empty. I mean, you want when you're older, you want like more people to be around you. Well, keeping circles small or big, however you prefer to live. But those are two lessons so far. Another thing I've learned about the journey of perfectionism is that failure is inevitable. I think for me, the hardest thing that I've ever had to deal with was my reaction and how I choose to grow from failure. I've had a lot of failures in life, a lot. But discussing all of those are like another podcast entirely. But a lot of failures have taught me to be a better person because then, like I said, as a stubborn person, I found that I had to learn other alternative ways to find solutions and a resolve. And it forced me to evaluate everything around me and my effect in that way and like how I approached those things. So that was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to learn, which was like failure is inevitable, but how you grow from it and how you rise above it is super important. And then another lesson that I learned as well is that feedback is a gift. And I hear this a lot from my friend Isnath. So yeah, I'm mentioning names here. But she's definitely taught me that feedback is so crucial and important and not malicious attacks to your character, because she was quite clear in that. It was more like feedback in terms of you taking reflection and then taking that and like, what are you going to do with this information to make your life better and in turn make other people lives better around you, because then they can stand and tolerate to be around you. Really? Sorry, there are children outside my office window who are making noise. Sorry about that. But that's something to think about. Another lesson, if I were to think of anything right now, is that life is full of surprises, and I've learned that it is better to never be reactive, so immediately. It's better for you to like look at life and find better ways to analyze and evaluate first before reacting and responding. Because sometimes when something is happening, you react with immediate effect, and then that ends up being quite negative majority of the time. But if you evaluate or just take even like 5 seconds to like just think about like a healthy response, that usually tends to be very helpful, because then you can get a better result, or you will get a better response from the environment and the people that are around you when you approach things with compassion and empathy, but also mostly understanding. Yeah. And that is me, you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please reach out on YouTube. I am very, very interactive on the comments, and you can also reach me on Instagram, Chats with Cath, and also on my email, chatswithcath@gmail.com. And yeah, let's continue this conversation, because I don't think I'm the only one who is who's a perfectionist, because my level of perfectionism goes into mild OCD territory, and mild OCD territory means that I color coordinate my clothes and shoes. I alphabetize my books. I I arrange things in a specific way for things to be symmetrical. It's yeah, and also the way I clean. I clean to the point where people are like, yikes, your house is so clean it's cold. And that's not a good compliment. I like clean spaces, but I don't want it to be like to the point people are uncomfortable in being in my spaces, because I want people to feel welcome and at home when I want people around me. But yeah, it's just been a continuous journey, and yeah, I'm happy to discuss this and share this journey with you. And that is me. With that being said, you guys, go with God, and see you soon in the next episode. Ciao!